Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Talking Elite Fitness. Tommy Marquez here on the road, flip-flopped with the usually on the road Lauren Khalil, who is here. Lauren, how you doing?
I'm great. I'm actually at home, and now you're doing some fun little family visitations with Miles.
Yeah, Miles getting to meet his great grandma, great aunt. Some really cool family time that we get to knock out. But Sean is also on the road. He is at the Arnold Strongman Classic that is going to be taking place this weekend and week as the Arnold Sports Festival is going on. It's a big fitness festival. Rogue Fitness will be your place to get all of the information as well as catch all of the live action of the Arnold Strongman and Strong Woman Classic that's going on. It's one of the premier strongman and strong women events on the calendar. So you can hear Sean's big, beautiful, booming voice as people perform feats of strength
Mm.
all week long. So he will not be with us this week, but we still got a ton to talk about. The Opens here. We have statements from the CrossFit Athlete Council. We have more athletes kind of revealing what their season plans will or will not be. We'll also hear from uh, Ben Bergeron, the owner of former CrossFit affiliate CrossFit New England, now Comp Train New England. In just a little bit, we have an interview coming with him. But before we get to all of that, we want to say thanks to our sponsor for today, and that is Thirdzy. Their Rest and Recover Collagen. It is fantastic. We can't say enough good things about it. Usually, you get to hear Sean wax poetic about this, but honestly, for me as a new parent, Thirdzy has been a game changer because obviously the sleep is a little bit more sporadic. But when I do get some dedicated sleep, one scoop gets me some collagen, L-theanine, GABA, no melatonin, non-habit forming, no grogginess in the morning, and it gives me some really good, strong, deep sleep, getting into those deeper sleep cycles to help me recover for the day. Because let's be honest, Lauren isn't quite there yet, but Sean and I are. We are masters athletes. I'm still a level 1 master. Sean's like a
Oh,
he's a
man.
level 4 master now.
Yeah.
And as many of you masters athletes know, getting the recovery element is even more important as you age. You can't just walk into a gym, sneeze, and hit a PR like you are when you're a young sprout in your early 20s. You need to have good sleep habits. You need to have good nutrition. You need to take care of your body. And Thirdzy is absolutely the way that you can help nail down your sleep. If you want to get a discount on Thirdzy, you can head to thirdzy.com/TEF. You automatically get 20% off your order there. I can't we can't say enough good things. They've been a long time supporter. We love this stuff. It's a nightly habit for me. It's a way that I make sure I get good sleep and have maintained a semblance of fitness in terms of my recovery in this process for sure.
And me too. Even though I spend a lot of my time on the road, that is one thing that can be a staple in my routine because they have those great travel packs that even if I'm getting not a lot of sleep when I'm on the road between waking up early, staying up late editing, I know that Thirdzy is something that I can rely on for great recovery. And as soon as I start taking it, sometimes I've taken it while we're recording if it's a little too late at night, that thing hits you and you start getting those wobbly eyes and hopefully your bed is close by or a seat on an airplane because you're out.
Totally. And again, thirdzy.com/TEF, the discount will automatically be applied. You can scan the QR code there on your screen. Thanks as always to Thirdzy for supporting our show. All right. Tons to talk about. Let's talk first the open numbers. So a quick little update. As we do each week, our good friend Mike Halpin from Known and Noble has consistently been publishing the numbers and registration. One from both the number of days left before the official start of the Open, or really the Monday after the Open when kind of the official registration numbers kind of close, as well as the days from since registration opened. So two different metrics, but we're really focused on the one with the runway at the end as far as days until the Open registration is closed. And right now, it's looking like we're trending at about 40%. So a decrease in 40% year over year. Now, one thing to note, um, Monday to Monday on the final week before the Open last year in 2024, over 100,000 people signed up. So there really is a huge push. I want to say it was north of 110,000. So really 33% of the people that signed up in the Open last season signed up in that final week. One, that just goes to show you that we will procrastinate no matter what. Two, that really the final judgment on what open registration looks like this season will come, come Monday, because we could see some big pops, especially Thursday, the day of the first open announcement, and the day
Mhm.
after. Those are typically two of the biggest days when people get to see the open announcement. It's a nice little uh, appointment television reminder. Hey, you need to sign up, and then the following day, you're like, oh yeah, I should get on it. Classes are running. We're getting ready to actually do the workouts now. So yeah, we've kind of hung around that 40% for a little bit. It seems like that kind of is the metric, at least from what I've seen.
Yeah, I'm curious to see where that gap will narrow because I do still think that we'll have a spike after the announcement
Mhm.
up until when scores are due on Monday. But how much of that gap can we see close in? Because between seeing what the workout is, I know we'll talk about this later, but knowing that I think week one is the repeat between 2020 and 2024. So that can kind of eh, add to the excitement, especially if you have been around within that 5-year window. And also just showing up to your local affiliate that is more than likely going to program the workout anyways on Friday, or showing
Mhm.
up for Friday night lights and getting encouraged by other people. So I'm curious to see where we end up at the close of Monday night.
For sure, and we do have. We I should mention, we'll talk about it more a little bit later. That we are just one day away from 25.1. We'll have some full details, a little bit more commentary in just a moment. But one thing that did come down the pipe a few days ago in this past week since we've recorded, the CrossFit Athlete Council, which was a council formed by CrossFit in conjunction with athletes that were voted on kind of by the community, I guess. And they're voted on by the community, but I haven't really dug into what the actual voting turnout was, what was the engagement on that vote. But it is an athlete council. That is supposed to work in conjunction with CrossFit. That is not the PFAA. They released a kind of document or statement um, just a few days ago, and I'm going to share my screen here because I do have the document up, and it is basically an a report of sorts on the feedback that they have received since their formation, and they're kind of reporting on a bunch of items, whether it's the new transgender athlete policy, the statement on the demand to fire to fire Dave Castro, and they address the PFA specifically, the statement on third party investigation and Lazar's death and CrossFit's response. Statement on athletes protesting the game season. Statement on the community desiring more forward-facing leadership from HQ. Um, a statement on the community desire to fix inconsistencies in the season, and then on the community cup as well. So they list a mission at the top as well as items to address. It's interesting, and we can kind of dive into this a little bit. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but Lauren, I want to highly urge everyone to go and read this first. Go read this full document, and the very first thing at the top, it says to provide transparency to the community. Okay, you got me there.
Mhm.
And offer objective, accurate explanations for decisions made by HQ. That one kind of has me a little scratching my head, because isn't it HQ's responsibility to explain their decisions and not necessarily an independent council acting as, for lack of a better term, a mouthpiece? That one kind of, like, right off the bat, that kind of had me scratching my head as far as, why is it this athlete council's responsibility to provide explanations to CrossFit when they should be fully capable of themselves? Isn't that what CrossFit has? A communications team, a PR team. Shouldn't they be able to provide explanations for their decisions themselves?
Yeah, that's the part that is confusing to me and doesn't make a lot of sense, especially as you start going through some of these points here, specifically when they talk about the investigation and they talk about that they're going to remain transparent, but then almost in the same breath they say that they're not going to release any more information because of anonymity. So it's just a little bit confusing, when you read it like that, and again, I'll just kind of go back to why couldn't they just have found a way to work with the PFAA, or why couldn't they have somehow combined the PFAA with this, and just creating now two different athlete boards seems confusing, and just it doesn't make a lot of sense and from where I'm sitting.
Hmm. Yeah, it's I don't know, and maybe it's just a wording thing, but even in the announcement of the creation of the athlete council, which again, if it's supposed to be this independent council and CrossFit's having a hand in making it and influencing it and kind of dictating what comes out and having them speak for them, it seems like the independent becomes less and less a reality. If
Mhm.
that's just
I
kind of
would
like
agree.
where my gut sits, and I mean, you look at what
And
some of
there
the
are
stuff
some
that
great people on the board. I don't wanna take that away from, some of the people who are on there, and that they do truly want the best for the sport, the community, the growth of CrossFit, etcetera, but, um, yeah, then when you see the wording of the mission, I'm just like, "Who's actually in charge, and what is the point of this? And what are we gonna get out of it?" And I think
yeah,
that we've still yet to see.
yeah, for sure, especially because there's already an independent athlete council in the PFAA that has been proactively trying to work and has been working with CrossFit back and forth to varying degrees over the last couple of years. Um, and it does seem like CrossFit hasn't been super interested in working with them, which
Mhm,
is almost kind of a defeats the purpose, right? If CrossFit wanting to say they have an independent athlete council, but there's one already there and they're not really willing to work with them, that seems odd. They touch on a bunch of stuff. I think the most hot button, I think the most publicized item on the list, the one that has been talked about the most, is both the third party investigation, which they state they're not going to share more, that they cannot release the full report for privacy and legal considerations, and then also the demand to fire Dave Castro, which they said they've received similar requests, such as those made by PFAA. Um, and they say first and foremost, the evidence found does not support a request for Dave's removal as director. What evidence is that? See,
right, in that case, they want us to just believe that without saying much. The evidence found. Well, what evidence found,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And now I understand that they are specifically adhering to CrossFit's request to remain
Mhm,
private on some of the matters in the investigation, but also at the same point, the point of this council is to be able to provide transparency and communicate the needs of the community and also advocate. And so clearly, they have received some evidence found, but they do not share that evidence. So they're going against what their stated mission is in terms of communicating and being transparent on this stuff to their constituents. That seems very odd to me.
mhm.
The like they do there is some good information in here and some good discussion, but those are like two of the biggest things that think people are wanting. And I think this is also speaks to some of the issues that the PFAA ran into, that they're advocating, but CrossFit doesn't want to play ball. And you can either say, oh, okay, that's not good enough and keep pushing, or you can say, okay, CrossFit, that works for us. Here, they didn't want to talk to us. Yay, good job. And it's like, well, what is the true job of an independent athlete council at that point if you're not going to push back against what is clearly a non satisfactory result or explanation, I think, or if you're going to hold on to evidence that the rest of the community and your constituents that you represent don't have, how are you not going to share that with them? I just, I that it almost is like, all right, we're doing the same thing over again.
Yeah. I mean, I will give credit to CrossFit for at least releasing something. We at least have some points to go through, but saying you're gonna be transparent and then not be transparent, it's a similar sentiment than that what we heard right after the CrossFit Games and when they said that they were gonna be transparent with the investigation. And again, I totally understand that there's a lot of legality that goes into this, and we can't just have the entire document in front of us, and they also have to listen to their lawyers, but, uh,
But
yeah.
it also speaks to the frustrations of people that CrossFit's like, "Hey, we're
Mhm.
gonna be transparent." And then they say, "Oh, actually, our lawyers are advising against this." Well, why even say that in the first place? Why put your foot in your
Right.
mouth, right? To
Just
from the
don't say
get-go.
anything. Just be
Yeah.
like, "Hey, we're gonna do everything that, we're gonna release as much as we can based on our guidance from legal," and just leave it at that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Um, it's interesting, like, I want there to be progress, and I want there to be, a willingness from CrossFit to hear what these groups have to say, but I don't want it to be on CrossFit's terms. That's the point. The
Mhm.
point of having an independent group is not that CrossFit gets to lead the dance here. It's that you have someone separate from them that is a strong advocacy group for people that aren't just going to get steamrolled by this. Because CrossFit has had the rule of the roost for so long, and they've done in many ways over the last 12 to 15 years. They've done a great job with it, but they've hit some road bumps and they've made some grave mistakes and done some things that have eroded the trust. And I don't know if this necessarily is, it may be a start in trying to rebuild that, but I don't know if this really, really satisfies a lot of the major criticisms at this point. I
And I
appreciate
think
they
that's
put
the whole reason. Go ahead.
Yeah, I appreciate they put the document together and they're putting it out there. In the
Absolutely.
very
Mhm.
least, you should be doing that. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It's I'm interested to see where it goes from here because I don't know if this is going to result in much more than what we've already seen.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, um, let's move on now because I'm sure we'll definitely have more time to talk about that in the future, and I definitely want to chat with that more with Sean as he comes back. But um, some more athletes have kind of come out on social media, stated what their plans for the season are. Specifically, um, Emma Tall, who we had, there's kind of been word out and about, basically that she was not going to compete in the season, but she did make it official, stating on her Instagram that she would be sitting out of the season and also explaining why. I don't have it pulled up right now, but if you do want to read it, because it is a lengthy discourse, and I would highly suggest you go check it out at Emma Tall's Instagram. She has a multi-slide explanation of that, and she is obviously was very, as an athlete from Europe and as someone who had trained um, in some capacity with Lazar and knew him well. Him and her and David both Sharunki. Yeah, it doesn't come as a surprise that she's sitting out, but she's not the only one, and that's not the only reason for sitting out. Emma Lawson is sitting out, citing a back injury. Um, I know there had been discussions about her potentially even maybe sitting out portions of the calendar year last year,
Mhm.
um, but this year she's choosing to focus on the WFP commitments, which and not do the open, which gives her a little bit more time to kind of take care of this nagging back injury. Uh, in addition to that, Jack Farlow is also following a similar suit, pursuing WFP opportunities and shifting focus to school because he is in school. And if I remember correctly, he's like a chemical engineer or something crazy like that.
Biomedical engineer, I think is the
Yeah.
ex I mean, he's freaking smart. And
Yeah.
the other guys that were on his team at Wadapalooza, that was like the big brain team. That's what I wanted to call them.
Check out the big brains on Brad. Yeah. So he's come out and said something similar, and we've also seen Emma and Jack do high rocks and some other fitness pursuits as well. And it seems like they're just kind of shifting focus at least for this year. On the flip side of that, we have had some athletes basically, announce that they will be competing in the season. Danielle Brandon released a hype video on her Instagram. You can go check that out as well, where she states that she's in. We've also heard some statements from some of the more OG CrossFitters as well, whether it's Becca Voigt and CrossFit Training Yard down in LA, saying that they'll be doing the Open. I believe Josh Bridges mentioned something on his Instagram. So you do have a multitude of voices, both new and old, kind of stating what their plans are for the season and where their support lies in terms of how they're going to try and hopefully, I assume, affect change, unless some of them don't want change and they're okay with the status quo. But either way, that has been pouring out, and I apologize if you can hear uh,
Miles.
Miles just having a ball in the background. Um,
He loves the
just
family trip.
he does. He's a big Tummy Time fan for sure. Um,
Aw.
but really, one of the, I guess, the biggest thing on the horizon right now, and I think this will take the rest of our discussion leading into our interview, is that the Open is here. The 2025 CrossFit Games Open is here. We're recording this on Wednesday, so by the time this hits on Thursday, it will be the date of the first Open announcement in Cookeville, Tennessee, at CrossFit Mayhem. Um, you're going to have some Mayhem athletes throwing down, as well as do we confirm that it's pretty much Rich that's doing it?
Uh, Unofficially official? Maybe?
Maybe.
He said if
Yeah.
his knees and hips can keep up with it.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Um, we'll have the
Maybe
full.
Rowan Boss will throw down. What do you think about that?
I would love it. I mean, again, I say if you're gonna go, you go back to the well with CrossFit Mayhem. Let's play all the hits, right? You got Haley
Yeah,
Adams, you got Austin Hatfield, you have Roman Krennikov throwing down. Let's get Rich out there. Let's get Roe. Let's get Boz.
get
Um,
everyone.
yeah, let's.
We got a good crew out there.
Yeah, and especially if you're going to have all those athletes, it does put a priority. One of the biggest secrets, or the biggest, I guess, let's say surprises. How do I put this? It's pretty much like the Christmas morning, right? This is CrossFit Christmas morning or
Mm.
Christmas Eve, where everybody's waiting to see what Santa brought, right? And we've talked about this on the show, and I think a few other people, Chase and Bill, talked about this too. But this first open workout really sets a tone or a precedent, if you will, on the season. I think you have, you know, whether it's a quality matchup between the athletes, a cool location, whether the announcement is done well, what the programming is, and does it encourage participation, or does it just step up and smack people in the face like 7 minutes of burpees? I think a lot rests on this first open test, and um, I'm I'm really curious to see what is going to come down the pipe, given that for better or for worse, there's I think a much larger magnifying glass on things this year, given what happened. And I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on what we might see out of the hopper this first week?
Mm. I can't remember. Is this the week that we're going to see a repeat? Did they specifically say what week would be the repeat? Did Dave say
It,
that?
he.
I
I
know
don't
Dave
think.
said it's between 2020 and 2024, but I don't remember if he said it was week 1. He did put the teaser out of the frogs croaking in the background with fire, like a
Yeah.
campfire on the
Yeah.
screen. I mean, yeah.
That okay, so I'll say that basically puts me in either was it 21.3 to 21.4, which is the 2 for 1, which it was like thrusters, toes to bar thrusters, pull-ups, all that stuff. But that seems too if that would be coming later on down the pipe, I don't think they would do that in week 1. There's also the deadlift burpee ladder that
Oh, the 1 to 10 and 10 to
mhm.
1? No, I
I
freaking
can see
hated that
I can
one.
see that one coming down the pipe. That would be a little bit more approachable. If we were going to get a repeat and it was going to show up in day one. But but yeah, that's
What year was the one that had was it wall walks, dumbbell snatch, and box jump overs?
that was
And it was
I
an
think
AMRAP?
I think it was 22. Let me
Okay.
find that. I want to say 2022. Ah, dang it. Let me, let me
I wouldn't
ch-
mind retesting that one. When I tried to retest that one, uh, like the Monday before scores were due, I did, eat it on the box, and then I looked at my split
we
times, and I was like, "Nope. We're done. We're just gonna go with the first
hit,
score now."
yeah, hitting the eject button on this one. Yeah, it was 22.1. So my
Okay.
memory does still serve me even with less sleep these days.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so that would be a good one too. Very approachable, I think. In um, I kind of Well, I do like the idea of a more modern repeat. I do think there's a huge cross section of the community that hasn't had the opportunity to experience some of these open workouts um, in the avenue of competition as they were originally intended. So I do think there's an opportunity to go further back in the timeline and give some people their first dose of some of these events that gave people, some iconic moments during open announcements and these highlight reels that you saw from the open from the heyday of CrossFit for sure. But but yeah, I don't know. Is there anything you wouldn't want to see on this first week?
The deadlifts and the burpees.
See, that's actually
I
one I'm like, I think I could do that.
Oh, that's because you love deadlifts. I mean,
Yeah,
I could
and
do it, but ugh. It's one of those 2 that if you're not very mindful of pacing, you can get to, like, this I remember getting into the 7s and thinking, "Uh-oh, I went way too fast. This was a mistake." Mistakes were made. And then
oh
by the
my
time I
gosh,
got to 10 and going back down, I think my spine was about to come out of my butt.
that makes sense. You know, that'll happen to you,
Yeah, yeah.
as it does when you do a ton of deadlifts. Um, but yeah, so again, Thursday, February 27th, by the time this posts, it will be that day. So 12 p.m. Pacific is when 25.1 is announced, and the elite athlete will throw down. You can get that over at the CrossFit Games website and or the YouTube channel. So yeah, go check that out. I think a lot of people, whether you're doing the open, whether you're signing up officially or doing it unofficially at your affiliate, a lot of people will be waiting on bated breath to see what this first test is. So we'll have
Mhm.
we'll have to wait and see, and we'll get to know sooner rather than later. All right, so let's get to our guests. So today we have an interview with a longtime member of the CrossFit community. He was the founder of CrossFit New England. He's the founder of CompTrain. He's competed at the games with the team and CrossFit helped coach CrossFit New England's affiliate cup winning championship team back in 2011. He is the owner and founder of what is now known as CompTrain New England, and it is none other than Ben Bergeron. All right, now we welcome in our guest for today. He is the founder of CrossFit New England, now CompTrain New England, founder of CompTrain training programs as well. None other than the Chasing Excellence man himself, Ben Bergeron. Ben, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really good. Thanks, guys.
And and so, wanted to have you on. Obviously, the decision to de-affiliate your gym kind of came down the newswire, for at least for us last week.
Mhm.
But I know this is a decision that didn't come lightly, and probably had a lot more time and more legs on it in getting to that final decision. So I want to start with what ultimately was the sequence of events that led you to finally make the decision to de-affiliate.
Yeah, so I think that anybody that's like paying attention to the sport of CrossFit knows kind of the tragedy that took place last August with Lazar. You know, I was there, obviously, my athletes competing, and it was heart wrenching and tragic. Um, and it was really in the weeks and following that I was like, um, is this the thing? It's where the question started percolating, right?
Mhm.
I didn't make any decisions at the time because I didn't want to make them emotionally. I didn't want to be swayed by recency bias. So I kind of sat with it for a long time. I kind of told myself I'm going to give myself until at least late fall, if not the end of the year, to make the decision. See if things change between the immediacy of it and if things turn a corner and we feel better about the actions of the people involved in the wake of that later on. And um, things didn't change. We didn't. I didn't see the things that I was hoping to see from a leadership perspective, from a company's perspective, from a way that we want to line our business up with. And we really do try to, you know, um, cultivate a culture very intentionally at our gym. You know, there's a reason I only open up one gym, is because I feel like I can only control the culture of one place, and I want to do everything I can to um, think of it as a really high performing, tight knit family team or community,
Mm.
and that's very much based on a certain set of values. And those values, I don't feel like were reciprocated through the actions, decisions, behaviors in the aftermath of the tragedy at the games. And kind of made the final decision in the middle of December. Um, but then our gym manager, Tori Dyson, who I know you guys know, she's
Mhm.
awesome. She's moving out to Coeur d'Alene to hang out with Cole and Katrin, which is awesome. I was out visiting Katrin last week. And so when she gave me the news in late December, I was like, all right, this is a lot of moving pieces. We're not going to tell our community that Tori, who everyone loves so much, is going to explore some other things. So let's wait till that settles. And we told our affiliate when everyone got back from the holidays, the first week of January. So it's a slow decision. It was a calculated decision. And it's a decision that, man, I wish I didn't have to make, because I still love this. I love this thing. I mean, I love what the methodology. I love the community. I love what it's built here. I love what it's built worldwide. Um, but I've kind of told myself um, values first, and made the hard decision that if that's not aligned, no matter how much as I was explaining this, like someone asked me, a week afterwards, they're like, "So how do you feel?" And you know, the way I kind of explained it was, it's kind of like you're dating a girl for a long time, and it's not right. And that's kind of the decision I came to, and it's like, but I sat with it for a month before telling everyone. Um, and you think that once you like break up with that girl, there's gonna be a big sense of relief. And man, there just wasn't. There wasn't the sense of relief at
Mm.
all. It was a sense of sadness. Like,
Mm.
this thing that I love so much, this era, this part of my identity is kind of gone. At least shifted, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Um, so it's a really hard decision. And I just kind of wish that it didn't come to this, but it's one of those things that I feel like I didn't have a choice in the decision a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that I mean, you hit the nail on the head right there with the sentiment of there wasn't a sense of relief after, and there's
Mhm.
still this overwhelming sense of sadness, which I think a lot of people in the community are feeling right now. When you think about, the 4 months leading up to finally making the decision, you're somebody who is so integrated in this community. Were there conversations that you were able to have with folks from, whether it was HQ or people in leadership positions or even other like training camps that kind of helped you gather enough information to make that decision?
Yep. Yeah, I talked to people at HQ. I talked to other training camps. I talked to some of the elite athletes. Talked to other affiliate owners. Um, and it was kind of the accumulation of all those different data points that helps support my gut decision, because that's what it
Mhm.
ultimately comes down to. It's like, how do I feel about this thing? You can talk to your girlfriend's parents, you can talk to her friends, you can talk to your friends, you can talk to other people that have dated her, but really it comes down to your relationship
Mhm.
with the individual or the company. And so I wouldn't say any one of those was like the nail in the coffin or the ones that swayed me, but the it all kind of supported this tough decision.
Mm.
What was the sense that you got in those discussions from whether it was leadership or HQ? Because I think, and as well as anyone, historically, I would say that CrossFit HQ hasn't had the reputation of being the most receptive to criticism or dissension. Anytime someone wants to break from their ranks, And obviously having a nearly 20-year affiliate and someone who's been, involved with CrossFit, even HQ in advisory roles for so long, considering that has to be a bit of a shock. And I'm curious what the response was.
I think it's we've heard, right? Which is kind of like you get the sense that they are listening just to check a box that they're listening.
Mm,
And there's not really a and it's not that I didn't ask them to listen. I was asking more questions than saying anything. So I understand that a lot of the athletes are pissed off because they've been talking about doing this a different way, safety protocols, unionizing, all that stuff. That wasn't necessarily um, a huge part of this. It was more about how are the decision makers, how are the leaders um, acting in this time of need when the
mm,
community needs the leadership the most. um, is this the way that I want to line up our business going forward? And
mm.
that was more of there's a lot of I don't want to knock this down on the way. It's not that type of thing at all. So I just don't want
Yeah,
to
yeah,
like
yeah.
this is my decision, and not everyone was
Mhm.
in all of the rooms that I was in along the way. And um, it's not the type of thing where I'm, um, mad about it. It's not that at all. It's not that I'm um, regretful that I was a part of it. It was awesome. It was
Yeah.
amazing. Like, and I wish that actually could be continuing it, but it's not the right move for me and my business going forward. Is really the thing.
Mm.
Mhm.
And kind of quick follow up to that, you mentioned like, looking for leadership and people to step up. You get it as specific or not specific as you want, but what were you looking for in terms of leadership? Like what aspects were you looking for and hoping for that would come down the pipe? Because I imagine there are quite a few um, gym owners, people of the community, affiliated, not affiliated, that are maybe feeling a similar sentiment, but unable to really kind of grasp what it is they're looking for.
Leadership is a challenging thing, and it's hard. Like, leadership's hard, and it requires hard decisions and doing things that might be unpopular at the time. It's not a matter of getting everyone to understand, but it is a matter of building trust. And
Mm,
trust takes a level of authenticity, transparency, vulnerability, um, compassion. Um, None of those things were represented in the days, weeks, or months of Lazar's passing.
mm,
Um, we were told that they'd be totally transparent. That wasn't the case. That there would be total ownership and responsibility taken. That didn't seem to be the case. So I know that they have their own challenges, their own struggles. I'm not here to say who's at fault or how they should have done it. I'm here to say that this isn't the way I would have gone about it.
mm,
And if this is the type of thing where we are a part of this thing together and they're doing things a different way than I would go about them, we shouldn't be hitching our wagon to that train because we're not seeing eye to eye in the way that we would handle these moments of challenge, these moments of crisis, which are the critical times. I like that saying that, I don't think I made this up, but how you act in peacetime, when things are going great, when people are applauding you, it's sunny out, you're doing things that you like, you're with your friends, that's your personality. When said another way is like 2012 to 2016 CrossFit, that's our personality, right? Like that was
mhm,
awesome. Everyone like knows the heyday of what that was. Your character is how you act in times of crisis. It's how you act when you're challenged. It's when things go against you. When you have to kind of buckle down and show your true colors. We have three core values. One of our core values is strong character. It's like if I didn't see strong character
mm,
coming from the organization, if our values aren't aligned, you're not gonna every single small little thing along the way is gonna be challenging, more challenging than it should be. And what we want to do is set up an environment that is um, a group of people that surround each other with people that support them, want to see them win, challenge them, call them on their crap. No drama, no gossip, no negativity, just good vibes and growth. Well, we haven't been able to do that in the outside of these walls in this because there's been lots of trauma. There's been lots of toxicity. There's been lots of negativity. We have that choice of whether to involve ourselves in that or not. So the choice I've made is to rip that band-aid off. This is a hard part. I'm going to bleed a little bit. Like doing these types of conversations, they're hard. Doing the conversation with my members, they're hard. But on the other side of this, we will fall back into surrounding ourselves with people that want to see us win, support each other, love each other, build each other up. No drama, no negativity, no toxicity. That's what we want, is a bunch of people of really, really high character.
One of the biggest things, I mean, even before what happened at the CrossFit Games, is athletes were looking for more transparency around safety protocols. I mean, even when you think about the water, when it came to the blue-green algae, like looking for the transparency around testing with that. Do you think, though, to play devil's advocate, that CrossFit creating the CAC, the CrossFit Athlete Council, was a step in the right direction, or that it wasn't enough? Or what are your thoughts surrounding that, when they're in a way showing that they might be trying to change?
Yeah, I don't have enough insight to probably have a really informed opinion on
Mhm.
that. I don't know much about actually never heard those words, CrossFit Athletic Council. Like, I don't even know what that is. So, I was really, really, really involved in the sport for 15
Mhm.
years. But I think that probably was coming to life as I was kind of getting out, essentially.
Mm.
Um, I was there to support Cole last year, but I wasn't even at the venue. I was doing community events outside. I wasn't a CrossFit coach coaching at the games this past year. And the year before was that whole year I wasn't involved in either. I'm guessing that probably came to life in that kind of time as I was transitioning out.
Mm. Yeah,
I don't
and
If I was to take my guess at it, I think what you said is spot on, Lauren. Step in the right direction, probably not enough.
Mm.
Are they showing that they're trying? Yes.
yeah, and again, I guess it comes down to like how how much those efforts actually take root, and do they, bear fruit in some ways that have meaningful change long term, at least. Because I want to say this delicately, but it's very rare now. Obviously, like the death of Lazar is almost a an event horizon, like a no going back type point, right? But I don't think a lot of this. I don't think the seeds of maybe considering breaking rank with CrossFit was planted then. I think for a lot of people, there may have been instances along it. Everyone carries a different history.
Mhm.
Um, I'm curious if in your discussions with people, did you get a sense that that was true for a lot of other people, or was it this event in particular?
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, it was a breaking point. I think that Pat Vellner and Brent have been very vocal about this. They've certainly had a mission for that for a long time, and this was your event horizon. Um, Categorizing as that, I think, is super accurate. Right? It
Mm,
was the straw that broke the camel's back. It wasn't the hammer to the head.
yeah.
It was a really, really big, really massive one, but it wasn't the initial, and it wasn't the
Mm,
first. This is um, on for most athletes. I think that this is. I shouldn't say most athletes. For a lot of athletes that have been there for a lot of years, because I think if you're the first year rookie coming in, you probably haven't seen the the trajectory. You haven't seen the history. You haven't seen the legacy. That's the way that communication has happened back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there was a lot of years that they've tried to do things differently. But obviously enough athletes saw this as the event horizon where like, hey, I'm going to step away for a little bit and just kind of let this breathe.
Were there any other times throughout the history of you being involved in the sport that you thought that CompTrain might de-affiliate?
So just for
Or
clarity,
CrossFit New
it's
England?
that's actually worth
Sorry.
clarifying though.
Yeah.
I was I own two businesses. One, it was what was called CrossFit New England. It's a CrossFit affiliate, brick and mortar, singular gym. We affiliated in 2007. Just recently announced the de-affiliation. We're still actually technically affiliated. I paid my dues. It was funny just the way it worked out. I paid my year-long dues like 10 days before I announced the affiliation, but I hadn't announced it yet. So
Mhm.
CompTrain is the other business that I have, which is training the elite athletes for the sport, which then has morphed into more of a digital platform for anybody that's looking to be athletic forever, right? CompTrain was never affiliated with CrossFit. The only way it was affiliated was loosely because we participated in their events. So that's just a clarifying aspect of that. Kind of funny enough, I think that a lot of CompTrain did try to affiliate a couple times, and we were told no. They said you need to have a brick and mortar gym. So we built a brick and mortar gym, and we reapplied, and they still said no.
Mm.
That wasn't spilt milk or anything like that, though. I wasn't like pissed off about it. It was like, okay, like they don't want these quote camps to be affiliated. I'm sure they have their reasons and motives behind that, and I don't really need to understand it. It's just like we'll continue doing our thing and show up at the games and try to do the best we can. To get to your question though, Lauren, in terms of like things along the way, the only other time that something similar to this really that was like actually popped up to the point of like worth discussing, it is, you guys remember this, but was during COVID with Greg kind of again not acting like the leader that we were hoping that a leader would act like. And at that time, we said if we don't see change, meaning if Greg is still running this thing, but I think Greg is a genius, like a full blown revolutionary genius. I love what he made for us. Like it is incredible. But he's not the type of person I would want as a coworker, and is not the type of person I would want leading my company. So we said if Greg is gonna stay doing this, we're gonna go and do something else. So did a lot of other gyms, right?
Yeah.
There was that whole kind of movement.
Mhm.
Greg eventually sold, brought in Eric Rosa, and we stayed. We didn't de-affiliate. So that was the only other time that it kind of was like on the radar. And then it was, hey, let's go back to business as usual. Before last year's games, this was not really on the radar. But last year's, I mean, like, you guys know, like, my best friend Cole, this could have been him as easily as it could have been anybody else there. And that's why it like is really, if this had been Cole and the response was the response, oh my God, like I can't even, like I'm gonna get really emotional talking about it because God, that's a horrific response. And I don't like, it's just like how close to home this thing was, you know. So it's just one of those things like I realized like I'm not gonna I personally, and that's how I think that these affiliates should run. Like I think every small business, I mean that intentionally, small business, not every big business, but every small business, I think that the highest chance of success is if you build the business as a reflection of your personal values, because then it's an extension of you. And I think that's really important for small businesses. What I encourage when I coach other gyms is when you're setting up what your gym stands for and what you believe, have it be what you believe. have it be your values, because then it's so authentic. And when
Hmm.
you talk about this, it's your heart and soul and passion builds out to it. But if you're um, really into health, fitness, and passion, and you open up an ice cream shop, it's like, okay, like come and try my ice cream. It's like, but if you're into like, it's like it has to be really, and that's what I'm trying to do is create something that's really authentic to me. And this was Event Horizon. Tommy, I love it. Was enough of a litmus test for me to go, hey, is this right for us?
Mhm.
Yeah. And I will say I do feel like, especially in maybe the last 4 to 5 years, you have been very open about the various iterations of where you feel like the next move might be for CrossFit New England, for Comp Train, for shifts in focus and where you're going to put your energy. Because I think back to even just a few years ago when we were discussing the potential for the Comp Train Academy and where that seemed like it was going to be.
Right.
But now, kind of where Comp Train has shifted now, and even where now CrossFit New England is going to go as a gym. Is there anything that stands out to you in that perspective of all of the changes that you've personally gone through with your businesses? And maybe is that indicative of anything about the community and where it's headed as well?
Well, yeah, it's really interesting. I was when you look at where I am now versus where I was in 2001, um, I was so bullish. I was like, all right, Eric Rosa's in this thing. We got like this thing we're going to grow it. He told us that we're going to be the next UFC. We're going to get 100 million people watching this thing. So I'm like a go guy. Like, I was like, let's be the first one to build an academy. Like, I
Hmm.
was like,
Mm.
let's build an academy. Let's be
Yeah,
way
I
out in
remember
front of
that.
this thing. And the academy model was we'll have elite athletes that are pro athletes, essentially kind of like World Fitness is doing. Give them a pro card. Like
Hmm.
we'll compensate them to be able to live here. Like treat them as real professional athletes.
Yeah.
How dope would this have been, right? Like this would have been freaking amazing. Then we'll have a development team that can train here for free, right? Basically, you're on scholarship, right? You
Hmm.
can train with so a really small elite group. Think like 3, 4, 5 super elites, people that are chasing the podium every year. Then let's have a development team of people that are on scholarship, like 6 to 12. Dope, amazing. And let's have um, a youth training center for people that essentially like if you want to be on the US ski team, right? You go to a ski academy. If you want to
Hmm.
be on USA Gymnastics, you go to like a training facility and you move your whole family to Colorado Springs the idea was to create one of those. And that would have been where those people pay to be a part of this. And that would have fed the whole thing. Unfortunately, we were also looking to create like corporate sponsorships to help support the whole thing, and um, the the sport didn't do what I I had maybe the word is hoped, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Envisioned it would, and that like same thing with the vision that Rosa had of this growth. So the corporate did not come in. We reached out to a lot. We did it. We did. I mean, like we went in on the sales route and we're like, hey, we're doing this thing. Do you guys want to be a part of it? And they weren't interested in it. What they were interested in was actually the affiliates. They wanted to um, they were way more interested in our comp train gym model than they were
Hmm.
in the elite model.
Hmm.
Um, and
Why do
then
you think that is?
I don't think this sport is at then as now is as marketable as we think or hope it would be, right? It's a really
Hmm.
niche small audience.
Mhm.
It's like if we were thinking about like um uh drone racing, like you're like, okay, like or frolf, like frisbee golf.
Yeah.
Like such a niche, like there's even BMX biking, right? Like BMX, like there's actually a lot more. Like it's just like whereas in terms of like, hey, we could get you to chat with hundreds and hundreds, maybe 1,000 gyms. They're like, oh, I could see they can connect the dots a little bit easier to a revenue model that way.
Yeah. Disc golfers are going to be pissed in the comments once they see this. Fro- I,
Fraud! I love that. That's way better.
Yeah.
I think it originally started with Frolf with like a Seinfeld episode. Like
Yes,
he stands for
100%.
Oh, yeah.
Frolf, and they called
Yep.
it Frolf then.
Yep. For sure. Yeah, I guess the kind of lingering question that I have is this, I guess, as with anything, is this a fully like kind of closed door moment, like you've shut the door on this particular chapter? Or I guess you could go to, like Jason Kalipa, right? They de-affiliated and then later on they came back when they felt like those values aligned. Is
Yeah.
this something that you're going to reevaluate and keep the door open, or do you feel pretty at peace with just the finality of this?
It's a great question, and I think that I don't like absolutes, so I would never say never. Right? There's
Mhm.
always like if there was, I love this thing. Like I do it every single day, right? And I train with thrusters and pull ups, and um, it's awesome. It like changed my life in so many different ways. If there was a meaningful shift that we saw on a consistent basis, um, then yeah, there's a potential that we could reunite. But this also isn't a, a, a- like a threat. This is not like if you don't
Yeah.
change, we're not coming back. This
Yeah.
is where we're doing. We're moving forward. We're not looking back. This is for now. This is the final real decision. We are no longer a CrossFit affiliate. It's not kind of like we have 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Like we're moving forward in a little bit of a different direction.
Yeah.
So, what exactly does that mean for people who are members of the affiliate I'm sorry, not affiliate anymore, but the gym as people running classes, people coming in to get fit? How is that model and what you guys do day in and day out going to change?
Yeah. So I mean, our I'm really proud of the member experience, which I think a lot of affiliates are, and a lot of affiliates say that. But I think that we have something really cool, which would all affiliates say. I get it, but we have done thing a little bit different than maybe the most affiliates do. We've kind of gone. Our mission is to create a family of humble, hungry, happy people who kick ass into their 90s. So family means it's an acronym for forget about me, I love you. Love is when you do something nice for somebody without looking for anything in return. So we're trying to create a group of people that do nice things for each other that don't look for anything in return.
Mhm.
Humble, hungry, happy. Humble, like you want to grow. It's not about I have all the answers right now. You're coachable, right? You look for feedback.
Mhm.
Hungry, you're not looking for shortcuts. You want to work hard. And happy. This is a big one. Like no drama, no toxicity, no negativity. Like this means a lot to us. But the big one there is who kick ass in their 90s. What we found is I'm not gonna say our programming is totally different, but we've just kind of like found things that don't necessarily like we don't do high skill gymnastic stuff at all. We haven't done handstand push-ups in our gym in about 3 or 4 years. We don't
Mhm.
do muscle ups at all in our gym. We haven't done them in 3 years. We don't cycle Olympic lifts. Um, we do things a little bit differently. So, what will change for our members? Really nothing. We won't be doing the benchmark workouts. I don't know if those are IP. I don't know if those are trademarks. I don't want to thread the needle there and try to figure out if it's okay. We won't be doing those. Like we won't be doing Fran anymore, right? And that's okay. Um, we can still do thrusters and pull-ups, right? We'll still be doing that. So in terms of that, nothing really changes. We've been on a different. We do a lot more structure, and I think most CrossFit gyms do. We strength train 4 days a week, and it's everything set on a progression. So we are always doing one squat, one bench, one dead, and one weighted pull up every single week. We always do at least 2 VO2 max training days, one lactic threshold day, one anaerobic capacity. We do a long, slow distance day. Like there's a little bit like it's not totally just like AMRAP 20, 5 rounds for time, Murph, Eva, Fran. Um, we have a little bit of it's still like, it's still in the idea of creating well-rounded fitness. So it is still
Mhm.
looking for broad work capacity across modal domains. That's the definition of fitness.
Mhm.
In terms of CrossFit, constant varied function movements, high intensity, I think that we're doing things a little bit differently, right? Constantly varied? No, we back squat the same day every week. Like we do weight pull-ups the same day every week. We deadlift the same
Mm,
day every week. There's a lot of structure to it. We do set days for VO2 max, lactic threshold, anaerobic capacity. There's certain days like there's structure to it. Functional movements. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we do thrusters and pull-ups and burpees, but we don't do as I already said. I think we
mm,
stick to that actually. Maybe we stick. We don't do sport specific movements. I
mm,
think of walking over a ramp on your hands as a sport specific. I think of ring muscle ups. Bar, you could argue very well. Ring muscle ups. We talk about this all the time in CrossFit. Like we want to train to get better outside the gym. Yet when we do a ring muscle up, we teach people how to do a false grip, how to bring your knuckles together and trace your chest. Bring it like you don't do that anywhere in the world. That's a skill specific to a sport.
mm.
So we try to stay away from those things. We're looking for Greg's words, second wave adaptations, things that will benefit you outside of the actual endeavor you're doing.
Mm.
And then in terms of the high intensity, we like high intensity, but we don't go high intensity all the time. We do set intensities, intentional intensity, where one day is long and slow, and some days are, medium, lactic threshold. Some days are medium hard, VO2, and some days are anaerobic capacity, like balls out, let's go.
Mhm.
So in terms of our member, when they walk in, they're still going to experience that. The
Yeah.
only thing, again, that will change is, unfortunately, bye-bye, Fran. None of our members are upset about that.
The question is, are you still having him do the Bergeron beep test?
So
Ooh,
yeah, we
great
actually just
question,
did that a
Tommy.
couple weeks ago. Yeah, we just did it a couple weeks ago. Luckily, I was out of town during that. That's when I was visiting Captain, actually.
I
Yeah,
was gonna say I'd be more upset about that than
yeah,
Fran. That
yeah.
is yeah.
Sorry,
That
guys.
that one
So
stings.
I was at Wadapalooza one year. Have you done the Bergeron beep test?
Oh, yeah.
What's your
I
score?
haven't.
The best I've ever gotten is 10 rounds, I think.
That's really good, Tommy, especially for a tall athlete. That's
Yeah.
really,
Oh,
that's really, really impressive.
I
Um,
actually, I may have lied. I think I got into the 10th round, and I got capped during the 10th round.
awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
if
that's
people
really,
don't
really
know
good.
what it is, can you explain it?
Yeah, it's 7 thrusters at a lightweight, 75 for guys, 55 for girls, 7 pull-ups, and 7 burpees. If you're able to complete that in 1 minute, you do it again at the start of the second minute, and you keep on going as long as you possibly can. So it's essentially a beep, and you just like it's the old school soccer beep test, except
Mhm.
that it's with our movements. And a really like if you can do 3 rounds, you're fit. If you can
Mhm.
do 10 rounds like Tommy, you're really fit. If you can get 20, you're like a regional I still call it regionals. You're a semifinal type athlete. I was at Wadapalooza. So like back like Katrin would get like 24. Cheryl Nasso.
Oh
Remember Cheryl
my
Nasso?
god.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She had the record, her and Tremblay, right?
She and Tremblay had the record at like 25, 26. I think Tremblay might have even been a little bit more than that, 27, which is really impressive for him because he's a bigger, stockier athlete as well.
Mhm.
But I met a girl at Wadapalooza. She came up to me in Whole Foods. And by the way, do you know that Whole Foods down in Miami during Wadapalooza is the highest netting sales at any Whole Foods in the country for any 1 week period?
Wow. That's a
Really?
really
Yeah.
fun stat.
I had a
I
guy named
don't
Drew.
doubt that.
How did you find that?
Because a guy named Drew, who's a comp train athlete, he's been to a couple of our camps, works for Whole Foods, and he
Okay.
told me that.
Wow.
Yeah, wild, right? That's cool.
That's crazy.
Anyway, she came up to me. She's like, "Hey, Ben Bergeron." I was like, "Yep." She's like, right away. She's like, "I did really well in the Bergeron beep test." Like that was like her lead in. I'm kind of
Love
like,
it.
"Awesome, cool, yeah, that's amazing. How'd you do?" She's like, "I did 36 rounds." I was like, oh, "Okay," like kind of like, you can't." I was like, "Well, that's really cool. If you send me a video of that, like, I'll post it." So she sent me a video. It was totally legit. I posted it.
What?
Uh, like legit
Who
30.
is she?
I can't remember her name, but she was like a fringe, like she was like a RX Wadapalooza athlete. I
And
wish I could remember her name.
Damn.
Be much
it
better
just
story.
like it just hit her spot, like that was just like her workout.
if you can just like, yeah, some people just kind of like have that. If you can do it fast enough, right? That you can do you can do the first two movements fast. You can. This is Paul's thing. He did the first two movements so fast that he could do the burpees slow. That you actually get a fair amount of rest period because the burpees. Everyone knows like once you're fit, slow burpees don't crush you.
Mhm.
It's fast burpees that crush you. So she was able to kind of do these. She was just really good at those movements. Um, and that's just that is such a that is the equivalent of like uh it's like a 2-hour marathon. It's like
Yeah.
that, right? It's like deadlifting 1,100 pounds. It's like that. It's like
Yeah.
so astronomical. It's so far outside the capacity. Like Tommy's legit super fit and he's got 10. This is like 3
Next
times as
level.
fit as Tommy.
3x plus.
Yes.
Oh,
That's
man.
good perspective. Oh my
It's
god.
one of those things
Well,
that like you take someone outside our space, have them do
Mhm.
that, and they can't make it through 3 minutes. And they see that and they're like, "Wait a minute, people do this for 25, 35?" It's just like
that's
and it hurts so bad at 2 minutes. It's not like you just
oh,
run out of time. It's like you're it hurts so much. So it's really
like,
cool.
Lauren, you're gonna have to do it and report back 'cause I wanna see you tackle
Completely.
that on.
Lauren
But
gets
777?
39 rounds and sets a new
yeah,
world
oh,
record.
man.
Ben, you've seen me do your the bike RPE test? What was it?
FTP. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
and
it's 20-minute, this is really popular in cycling communities. So it's called your, functional threshold power. It's 20 minutes for average wattage. And
mine
it's,
ain't good if anybody was wondering.
but it's like that in the cycling world is like, what's your Fran time? That is
Yeah.
in the global
Yeah.
gym community, like, what do you bench, bro? They're like,
Mhm.
what's your FTP? Everyone knows their FTP.
Hmm.
So you just take that number. Actually, the real number that really matters is you take your FTP and divide it by your weight in kilograms. Because
Ooh.
because Tommy, if you're like if you're a 210-pound athlete, you pushing on pedals is way easier than Cheryl Nasso at 115 pounds, right?
Yep.
So if she's putting out 250 and you're putting out 300, she would actually have a much higher um, um, relative power output, which is what that
Mhm.
is. That's the number. And cyclists, it's really cool. They actually know they can predict if they're going to win. I don't even say predict. They sort of know, barring a crash or something catastrophic, if they can win the Tour de France before the Tour de France. So
Oh, wow.
every May, Lance Armstrong would know if he's going to win the Tour de France or not if he was able to get above a 6.4 on that.
Wow.
Um, so if you get above a 6 point, like it's just that's when you think I put those numbers together, it is wild what that output is.
Huh. Fascinating. Man, well, I'm glad we got a little bit of training talk on the back end of this because it's always great to talk about that with you, Ben. But really appreciate you coming on. Really appreciate you taking the time to kind of talk through your process, talk through everything that has transpired with the gym, with CompTrain, because as I mentioned before, you've been in this space a long time. You've been inseparable with both the affiliate side and the sport for so long as well. And it's always good to hear that perspective because, like I said, so many people are probably in a similar boat or at various
Mhm.
degrees of that stage in that decision as well. So, thanks as always for coming on. You know, best of luck with everything that's going on with the gym and with the programs moving forward. And again, we'll hope to hear from you soon, and we'll have you back on
Awesome,
soon.
Tommy. Yeah. Thanks, Tommy. Thanks, Lauren.
Thanks as always to Ben for joining the show. Always good to catch up with him, and interesting to hear his perspective on things and where the future for CompTrain New England and his community that he's built up there in Massachusetts lies. Before we wrap things up, we do want to do a quick shout out. If you have any community support, please hit us up. You can send it to both the Talking Elite Fitness Instagram and our individual Instagrams as well to help spread the word. And we would love to shine some light on whatever it is you got going on to help support the community the best that we can. PRs and no reps. Do you have any no reps, Lauren?
I thought I did, but I don't actually.
I don't either. Actually, it's been a pretty good week, so we'll jump right to PRs, and I've got a couple, but you jump in first.
Okay, so my first PR is going to be this past weekend kicked off the tactical games, the regional season, and Greg Hammond with Concept 2 was out there. And I want to give him a PR because him and I are now doing kind of how the Boz versus Row challenge. We're doing
Oh,
Lore versus Greg challenge, that at every tactical games event that we're at this season, we're going to pick one of the events and we're going to go head to head in. So this past weekend, we did what was this physical floater, 90 seconds on the clock. Your score was the amount of weight in sandbags you could get over the yokes. So there was 5 different sandbags. You could kind of choose your own adventure. And I just want to PR Greg for being a good sport because, you know, he is the one that's going to kill me and kick my ass on the machines and the running. But I took him down for the sandbag one
ooh,
based on
nice.
like the 70% method.
Yeah, there you go.
Or
Well, that's
73, whatever it
that's
is.
awesome. Love Greg, long
Great
time
guy.
member of the community, and has been at the forefront of everybody's favorite machines and concept too, for sure.
Yes.
Uh, I've got 2 PRs. The first one, I'm going to PR Mike Idala. I don't know if you guys saw this going around, but he did a world record 255-pound Turkish getup on an axle bar.
Oh my God, with an axle bar?
Yes, yes. So for me, I
Oh,
actually, I would actually like that more surface area for the hand and wrist to kind of stabilize. But still, I'm sure for Lauren
nope.
and her little Keebler elf
My
hands.
little hands. Keebler elf hands.
I don't know why that just popped up in my head,
It's
but
true.
but yeah, go check it out. Mike, he posted it to his Instagram account. And for those of you wondering, yes, he goes up and he goes back down on the Turkish get up for the full rep. I don't know how he stabilized it. Both my shoulders, there would be no such thing as the arm as it exists between my wrist and my shoulders. They would just collapse in on themselves, and I would just be shoulder immediately into hand. That would, I don't know how he did that. It's amazing feat, and big shout out to Mike. He's been doing cool stuff like this with Turkish get ups and pushing some cool feats of strength in that regard for quite some time. And my second one,
Congrats.
I'm going to PR health. Um,
Ooh, I like that.
Obviously with the open starting tomorrow, a lot of people do a lot of different things with regards to health and fitness for their own reasons. I think it's a nice way to remind people of just, hey, why are you training? Why do you go into the gym? Why are you either doing the open, not doing the open? And I hope at least somewhere sprinkled in there is health, right?
Mhm.
Longevity, health, and fitness. I had a kind of a very poignant moment about that yesterday when I got to watch my son's great great grandma hold him for the first time, and they are just 2 awesome people separated by 100 years. They were born 100 years apart.
Wow. That's
How,
really cool. That's a special moment, Tommy.
yeah, how often do you get to say that you got to meet someone from your family and you're born 100 years apart? I couldn't help but be grateful for that. It was a really cool moment seeing the joy on his great great grandma's face, getting to hold him, and even playing some of the games that I'm sure she's played with countless kids and grandchildren alike. My son just eating up every moment because he's a big ham, and yeah, so it's just a nice little piece of perspective for sure.
I
So yeah,
love that. That was
yep.
good PR.
Yep. So yeah, we'll end on a positive note this week. And again, go check out Sean over on the Rogue Fitness
Mhm.
um, channels to catch the Arnold Sports Festival and the Arnold Strongman and Strong Woman competitions that will be taking place this weekend. Check out the CrossFit Games Open announcement that we'll post on Thursday. And yeah, best of luck if you're doing the workouts on this first round. And we'll be back next week to recap some of the final open numbers and revisit week 1 of the official CrossFit Games season as well. So thanks as always for listening. For Lauren Khalil, I'm Tommy Marquez, and I'll sign off the way Sean does. Take care of each other, be better, and we'll see you guys next time.
Like a kiss at the start of a first date. If it's good, I don't wanna wait. When the feeling's right, I'm taking it.